So welcome to this session. I will share now my screen just to give you an introduction, how this session came about and who we are and why we are doing this. So the name of the session is about Sociocracy for Cooperatives and Democratic Business. And it's a session that is supported by the Belfast City Council Support Program for Cooperatives. Now, if you are not in Belfast, if you are not around this area, don't worry, because this is the building of resources that we are trying in the last probably 2 years with this program for cooperatives. So just to give an idea what the support program for cooperatives look like, well, you can go and see what social economy, how is defined by the Belfast City Council, that very much include the social enterprises and cooperatives. But the support in itself really helps the group to navigate the different aspects of developing a startup in the social economy. So it really includes advice on legal issues, best practice visits, but also business planning, exploring and securing some of the finance, help to generate ideas, networking opportunity, anything that can help a startup in the social economy to really develop the best they can do. And they will also include some seed funding for cooperative registration if you are in Belfast. Unfortunately, this is very much about Belfast, the Belfast area in Northern Ireland. And there is a link where you can put your interest. You can actually register your interest, and that is on that slide. These slides, like any other slides, will be really shared with you, as well as this recording. So the cooperative resources that we were able to build thanks to the program of the Belfast City Council are all posted on our website. Our website is www.cooperativealternatives.com. And what kind of resources we have developed in the last 2-3 years? Well, we have frequently asked questions. We have webinars on cooperative skills and democratic business skills, like what is today. And we have case studies. Most of our case studies are local case studies, but even if you are not local, you can actually see that there are similar cooperatives in other regions, and it could be useful for you to give a look. What are the events of this year? In October, we have done a face-to-face event called the Young Cooperators Conference, really aimed at engaging young people in cooperative thinking. Then we did an introduction to cooperatives, a very, very kind of broad introduction for whoever wanted to start a cooperative. But this month, we have a very specific cooperative investigation exploration. We've just done last week the Creative Cooperatives for Sustainable Art Practices. And we invited Brian Morgan to talked about that is an art in himself, and he has set up cooperatives in the art sector. We invited him very much to talk about creative coops and why and the advantage. Today we have a Sociocracy with Joanna, and I will say a bit later why this is important. And then we will have a training webinar next week also for urban farmers and food retailers. Also in December, so we have put down some good governance for society directors, that just to help also the existing cooperatives to embed good practice in their own governance. So if you want support for co-ops or democratic business, please start here from our website, then apply for the support in those two business. The first link will give you support in Northern Ireland, in Belfast, sorry, in Belfast. In the second link will provide you support, or you can access support for the rest of Northern Ireland. So here we are today. Thank you for listening to this introduction, and thank you for allowing me to thank the Belfast City Council for allowing us to do this. Today is a Sociocracy, and we are very, very honored and also delighted to have Joanna McMinn with us. Joanna not only is a
Sorry,
student,
can't hear.
Hello?
She said she can't hear.
Hello, Priscilla. Can you not hear me? Can you hear me, Joanna?
Yeah, yeah.
Can anybody else hear me?
Okay, Priscilla, it must be something to do with your, you've got us now. Okay, good.
You got us now? Okay. So let me say just a few words about Joanna. Joanna is also a practitioner on the ground. She is a leader in the co-housing project that we are doing here in Belfast. So Joanna has a mix of academic and practical knowledge. And so I'm sure that her presentation will give you the right insight if you are going to apply sociocratic methods in your organization. At the end of the day, don't forget to leave your comments as a matter of evaluation of this webinar. Thank you all, and Joanna, this is your stage now.
Okay. Thank you, Tiziana. That's great. And I will, well, what I'll start with is asking people to introduce themselves. I'll introduce myself, if you like, first, just to say, as Tiziana says, I'm involved in a co-housing cooperative here in Belfast. And we registered as a co-op about 4 years ago, but we've been organizing since then as co-housing. So I became interested in sociocracy when we started. Somebody put it up on our values when, you know, you do these things. And I didn't know anything about sociocracy, but having a curious mind, I went off and found out about it, which led me to doing a whole year's training in sociocracy with an organization called Sociocracy for All, which I'll give you the link for later on. And subsequently, and at the same time, gradually we have introduced sociocracy into our cooperative and really find it very helpful. So before we start, though, I'd like to hear from each of you. You know what well, I can see your names. It's just to say a little bit about yourself. Are you involved in a cooperative? What's your interest in sociocracy, or anything else you'd like to say about yourself? So can I ask, first of all, Patricia, and then Gail, and then Patrick. Patricia, would you like to go first?
I think you mean me, yes.
Oh, Priscilla, I beg your pardon. I'd misread it. I beg your pardon, Priscilla.
That's okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Priscilla. I'm involved with a beautiful community in Fermanagh called Common Ground. And here we are trying to set up a sociocratic society. And we very, very early on, a few of us are starting now to learn about the principles and applications of sociocracy. And that's why we're here today. And we're all very excited because the Common Ground space is very healing. And that's most of its goal, is to create a very healing space.
Wonderful. Thank you. Gail.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Joanna and Tiziana, for this training today. I'm Gail. I'm also involved with Common Ground, Northern Ireland and Fermanagh. It's a community land people-based project. Like Priscilla said, it's very based around healing through the land, through connecting with the land and with each other. And they have already been implementing sociocracy, but things have been moving quite slowly in the project, and we're trying to get some momentum gained now, and a group of us are getting together to do some training together on sociocracy, probably through Sociocracy for All, and through a connection we have with Clough Jordan community farm down in Tipperary. So yeah, really exciting to learn more about sociocracy, and thank you.
That's great, thank you. And
Yeah,
okay,
good afternoon to everyone. I'm Gwapati Shu. I'm a human rights advocate living in Cameroon, precisely in Africa. I'm a gender consultant working on gender-based violence and human rights violations, democracy, governance, and community development. So I'm very happy to be part of this webinar of today, and I think to get more experience from that, and I think we can work together and see how to bring a greater change in the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I'm going to start this slideshow, and just to say, because it is like about governance, really, because sociocracy is really a governance model, it's quite technical in parts, so I'm going to go slowly, and after each slide I'm going to just pause, and if you want to have any, if you want to ask me any clarifications, okay? So I'll just start from the beginning anyway. So so what happened, what we're going to do is, first of all, introductions, what we've just done. And I'm really delighted to see two of you from Common Ground, and also somebody, did you say from Cameroon? Which is fantastic.
Yeah, from Cameroon,
That's fantastic. I'm so delighted you're here. That's terrific.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to talk about where sociocracy came from, and then looking at cooperative values and how principles of sociocracy can support those values, because basically we are involved in all of us here are coming from a values-based perspective, I think, on the work that we do. And then I'm going to look at to ask, what does a sociocratic model of governance set out to do? Features of sociocratic governance, and some key concepts, and then in practice. I'm going to talk particularly about the principle of circles and the principle of consent. And then as an example, just to give one practice of the election of roles or selection of roles. And then looking at some governance documents that you need to have as an organization anyway. And then we'll end with a short evaluation. So, so somebody else has come in here. Okay, they're asking, oh, they've got them, okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
After the meeting, can we have these slides of this PowerPoint?
Yes, I'm happy to share it. Is that okay, Tatiana?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so the idea of sociocracy began with the French philosopher and sociologist Auguste Comte. He also, he was the creator of sociology. But the interesting thing about sociocracy was that it was taken up and developed by Quaker peace activists in Denmark. And that from Denmark, it then came to be used in America, and more recently in the UK. And so it has had an interesting journey from the 19th century. And definitely it has become increasingly popular as a decision-making practice, particularly around decision-making, I think, in worker cooperatives and housing cooperatives and intentional communities. Why is this doing this? Hold on. Okay. So if we look at cooperative values, the values are of self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity. And in the tradition of their founders, cooperative members are expected to believe in the ethical values and share the ethical values of honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. So the question that I'm addressing is, how can a sociocratic model of governance actually support these values? So the principles of sociocracy one of the first ones is the principle of consent, which means that we raise, seek out, and resolve objections to decisions and actions. I'll come back to consent in more detail later. The principle of empiricism, which involves you test all assumptions you rely on through experiments and continuous revision. And sometimes in America, sociocracy has been called dynamic governance. And it's that dynamic sense of that, you're constantly testing and continually open to change. And that leads to the principle of continuous improvement. So you change incrementally to accommodate steady empirical learning. And again, that I think contributes to the dynamic nature of working sociocratically. The principle of equivalence, which means really involving people in making and evolving decisions that affect them. And the principle of transparency, which means really we record all information that is valuable for the organization and make it accessible to everyone, unless there's a reason for confidentiality. And like what we do we have a template that we use for recording meetings, and that's on a drive, on Google Drive, so everybody can see that and can go back. If we have time at the end, I could show you how that works. And then finally, the principle of accountability. And that means responding when something is needed, do what you agree to do, and take ownership for the course of the organization, really. So those are the basic principles of sociocracy. And as I said, I will pause. Is there anything there that you need me to clarify? That's okay. You'd have to, I can't actually see you at the minute because I've minimized so I can read my notes. So if you do have a clarification, please just say it, okay? Okay. Okay. So the aims of sociocratic governance are really ensuring that all voices matter. That is so important. And it's just so basic to this. Managing work effectively and making decisions that are high quality and in an efficient manner. So it's quite well structured how we make decisions in sociocracy. Distributing and decentralizing decision-making authority and responsibility to the maximum levels appropriate. I'll come back to that. But basically, sociocracy offers a model of devolved authority and responsibility, and which is very interesting, and it really takes some it's a cultural change for a lot of people who have worked, and many of us have worked in hierarchical organizations where decisions are only taken at the top and decisions have to be ratified at the top. So I think it's quite challenging for some people to adapt to that idea. Then after that, it's about developing sociocratic participation, consent building, and leadership skill of our members. So from my experience, I think it's a very empowering model of governance. Supporting broad participation by members in both governance and operational work, and fostering a positive sense of community and connections among members. And finally, it's about supporting the accomplishment of the aims in the context of the organization's vision, mission, and values. Okay, so is there anything that you need me to clarify there? Okay. So the elements of sociocratic governance that I'm going to talk about, it has three key elements, really. First of all is the decision-making process that includes every voice. And when I asked my own group what they had found most valuable about sociocracy, it really was the decision-making process. It brings great clarity, I think. Secondly, it offers an organizational structure that can carry that inclusion into organizations of any size and complexity, which is very interesting, I think. I'm involved in a fairly small organization, but if you look at the websites on Sociocracy, you'll see that it really can be applied to business, to school networks, to all sorts of different contexts. And finally, it has this element with a focus on feedback that allows the organization grow and adapt in changing environments. So that's really the three key elements. Okay. Can I continue, or is there anything else anybody would like me to clarify? No? I see, Tiziana, two other people have come into the... Do you want me to pause?
Yeah, maybe we give it a chance to hear from the other people. I don't know, Joanna. I think that
yes,
given that they lost some of the key concept, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to invite them to?
Yeah. I have a question.
Okay.
Madam Joanna.
Yes.
Can you please, after reading the text, can you please brief or give a briefing of the presentation?
Yes, I'm going to be talking about implementation, but I'm just wondering now, will we have three new people who have joined, if they would like to introduce themselves. We have Armand, Ifo, and Elizabeth. Would you like to put your cameras on and introduce yourselves?
Yes, Armand Zebe is my colleague. He is based in Cameroon. He is also a human rights advocate working with l'ONG Emond Davini. So he's my colleague. He's just beside me. Just because he speaks French, since Cameroon is a bilingual country, he speaks both English and French.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Ifo?
Bonjour, mon frère. This is Ifo. I'm here in Canada, originally neighbors of our brothers here in Cameroon. I'm from Nigeria. My guys, I throw a salute. I'm over here causing lots of trouble because we need to cause trouble when we're in colonial societies. We need to and we're also trying to deal with the housing situation. So I and my friend Diana, who just joined, are working to form a cooperative to provide housing, affordable housing, and also deal with some of the other challenges that Africans are experiencing here in Canada. So we want to focus mostly on Africans and try not to get distracted. And then when every African is housed and taken care of, we might do some stuff with some other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Elizabeth is also my colleague. We are together in one organization. So I'm the one who shared the links. So that is why Elizabeth, Amang, we are all together. We are human rights advocates working together. Yeah. So we wish to see how we can make partnership together with you people so that you bring a greater change in the society.
Okay, great.
And in our community also in Cameroon.
Fantastic. Okay.
Concerning governance, democracy, human rights, and civic participation in our locality.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's terrific. Okay. So we have started already, and we've been talking about we've been talking about sociocracy, and it has three key elements, and that is, first of all, a decision-making process that includes every voice, and an organizational structure that can carry that inclusion into organizations of any size and complexity, and a focus on feedback that allows the organization grow and adapt in changing environments. So this is the three key concepts: a circle of equals, a decentralized structure, and a plan to improve.
We can't see your shared screen anymore.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay, let me just come back and I'll, thank you for telling me. Sorry, let me just see. Okay. Can you see that now? Can everybody see that?
Yes, I can.
Great, okay. So the key concepts in sociocracy are, one, that you're talking, you work as a circle of equals. And secondly, that there's a decentralized structure. And three, that there's always a plan to improve, so that it's a dynamic process that you're involved in. And as I said earlier, this is some of my presentation is quite technical, but I'll stop after each slide for clarification. Okay, so the next one is in practice, governance in practice. Sociocratic governance in practice means that we work in circles, and circles are small groups that have a defined aim and full authority in a specific domain. In other words, their responsibility if they're working within their responsibility, they have full authority to make a decision, which I'll come back to. I think it can be quite challenging for anybody who's worked in a traditional kind of organizational setup. Now, another part of that, what helps make that work is that, let me just move that out of the way, is that there's what's called double linking between circle. So you can see from the diagram at the little picture at the bottom that each circle is linked to the circle next to it, i.e. to its parent circle, such as, for example, a management committee, and to its subcircles through a double link. And I'll come back to that, but what it means is this constant communication between circles. It's not, when I say people go off, have a small group with a defined aim, it's not people who go off and make their own decisions and come back and tell everybody else. This constant communication and conditions to that. So the next thing is consent, which is central to sociocracy. It's a decision on a proposal when no one in the circle has an objection. Okay, and I'll come back to that because it's central to sociocracy. And because of that, what is involved in consent also is the encouragement of raising objections. And an objection is a formal concern that approving and carrying out a proposal would negatively affect how a circle can achieve its aim. It's not somebody saying, I don't like that. That's not what I want. It has to be something far more rational and formal, and have clear rationale that it could damage the work of the organization or the circle, or the proposals that are the outcome of the proposals. And then lastly, election of persons. So elections of persons for functions and tasks takes place in accordance with the principle of consent and after open argumentation. And I've got an example. I'll show you, be talking more about that later. So is that okay for everybody? Is there anything there that needs clarification? I will be I'll be giving more detail as we go on, so I'll move on. So when with the principle of circles, the organizational structure consists of semi-autonomous interlinking circles. So parent circles, so for example, a management committee or whatever you want to call it, set and or affirm the aim and the domain of their more focused subcircles. So generally, linked circles have two overlapping members. The leader and the delegate form a double link between parent circles and their more focused subcircles, so that influence may flow in both directions. So if you were talking in hierarchical terms, it would be both top down and bottom up. But in sociocracy, when we talk about hierarchy, it's really about a hierarchy of objectives, not of status. And I think that's quite important. Because sociocracy, in my view and in my experience, really promotes an egalitarian relationship between people. So a subcircle may propose its own leader to be confirmed by the parent circle. Alternatively, a parent circle selects the leader of its subcircle to be confirmed by the subcircle. Okay, so the leader then of the subcircle serves as a full member of both the subcircle and the parent circle, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, or do you need me? Does anybody have a question around that? Okay. Okay, so some of the circles that you would find, first of all, you would have the mission circle, which is holding the organization true to its vision and mission, which is a place for dreaming, for fiduciary, strategic, and generative responsibilities. And sometimes that's called the board. You know, the board, would be another word for that, another name for that, but it's holding the vision and making sure that the organization stays true to its vision and mission. Then after that, you have the general circle. So the mission circle might be quite a small group of people, and the general circle might be bigger. So it's responsible for carrying out the organization's mission and aims, including the effective implementation of the governance system. Now, in my own cooperative, there's only 7 of us currently, and we're both of those things. So we're the mission circle and the general circle. And after that, particularly in a business setup, you might have department circles, and they're the primary set of circles that divide up the entire work of the organization. Then you have from that, you have subcircles. They're circles that are created by a parent circle, could be a developed department circle or another subcircle, to focus on a particular problem of the parent circle's aim and have a specific domain of responsibility. So it could be a circle that's set up for communications or membership, or could be dealing with a particular thing, like, for example, in a housing cooperative, it might be about finding a site and doing research on that, or what's available. And then finally, we have helping circles, and they are temporary circles created by an existing circle to research and recommend actions or policies to the circle that created it. A helping circle can also carry out specific short-term work assignments. So I'm currently on a working group with Sociocracy for All, which is called Sociocracy in Co-ops. It's called the Co-op Circle. And the helping circle, we had a helping circle recently that went off to try and design like a logo or a metaphor for how sociocracy can be used in cooperatives. So that's an example of a helping circle. And then when it's done its task, then that finishes. Okay, so it's a temporary one.
Can I ask you a question, Joanna?
Please.
Okay, so I do understand the relationship and the double communication that you explained so well among the different levels of sub-circles. But in your experience, would that type of structure be adaptable to also give some independence when we are talking money? So how far this delegated authority can go, and how well sociocracy will work if money is involved? All the examples that you give us so far were about policy and communication, but what about money and particular decision related to budgets?
Well, that has to be a decision by the general circle, probably in deciding, well, if you have any money, that's if you have money, and deciding what would be the budget for example, in my cooperative, we have a communication circle and they have designed a website. And there are costs associated with having a website, as we all know. So in that case, then the circle itself might propose what it needs for a budget. And then it would, then that might be a decision that has to be taken by the finance circle, because we have a finance and fundraising circle. And so you might have a crossover there where they have to look at, okay, how much money do we have? And how can it be, that has to be some negotiation. So as far as finance is concerned, circles can have a budget, and that may be decided by both putting in a proposal for how much money that is needed for the work that they want to do, and the finance circle also being able to say, this is what finance is available and how it can be divided, how it can be used by. It doesn't have to be the same for every circle, obviously. It's a question of negotiation. Does that make sense, Tatiana?
Thank you. Yes, indeed.
Okay, so then if we move on to this next, the principle in sociocracy, which is central to it really, is the principle of consent. So policy decisions are made by consent, and that it would include financial policies also, including the selection of people for roles in the circle. So consent is defined as having no reasoned objections. So circles solicit objections because they provide valuable information, and the reasoning behind the objections allows the circle to improve proposals so that all members of the circle can work towards its aims more effectively. So what is an objection? So a reasoned objection is made when there is a concern that the proposal would negatively affect the circle's ability to serve its purpose. In other words, objections are based on the aims of a circle and the vision, values, and mission of the organization, and not on personal preferences. Okay, so reasoned objections have a clearly stated rationale, allowing circle members to understand the basis for the objection and to take collective responsibility for possible resolutions. So if somebody brings a clearly stated objection to the group, it's not their responsibility to come up with a solution. It becomes a collective responsibility to find a possible resolution, which is so important. So is that clear? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
okay,
Joanna.
okay.
Okay, there is. Patrick, you want to go first?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Anybody else? Actually, Tatiana, because I can't see people, everybody, can you, if you anybody's hand up, would you make me aware of it?
I actually have a question, Joanna.
Go ahead.
I think I understand what is meant here by a reasoned objection, but what if, for example, a proposal is put forward, and then a couple of people just have suggestions on how it might be tweaked or how it might be adapted. Maybe they have ideas around that. Yeah, is that classed as an objection, or is that just a suggestion?
It could be. Well, one thing I would say is, first of all, that a proposal coming to a meeting should never be a surprise. Okay. And honestly, I'm saying that from years of experience. My whole background is in organizations and in senior management and in leadership position. And where there's conflict around a proposal, it's usually because somebody is taken by surprise and they just go, oh my God, where did that come from? So what in sociocracy, what you would always, and we'll talk more about that, but in terms of coming up with a proposal, you would want to be surveying people, you would want to be talking to people, so that when you say, you know, somebody comes with a suggestion, ideally that suggestion would already have been, the proposers would be already aware of that, so that you're not totally revising it. So I think that would be the main advice I would say around suggestions. And if that isn't taken on board, and then it comes to a meeting, somebody says, well, actually, I do have an objection because it would negatively impact on whatever it is, you know, that they want to say. And then, you know, if there might be a helping circle set up, you know, but generally speaking, proposals should have a lot of work done to them before they come to the table. That's what I would say.
Thanks.
Prevention is better than cure. Yes.
Sorry, I have a question as well. When you are saying a proposal needs to come to the table, do you think that makes a difference to have that proposal written down or just orally? Given the fact that, you know, it needs to be surveyed and talked about, but what would be your?
Tatiana, if it's a policy decision we're talking about, it most definitely should be written down. Most definitely. Otherwise, people might not be able to, people might mishear it. You know, there's lots of, you know, for clarity's sake, you know, a policy proposal should be written down.
Very good. Can I ask you another question? I like your idea about a reason objection should not be on personal preferences.
Yeah.
But in my experience, quite a lot of objections are because they are personal preferences. For instance, you know, people may object because it gets too much work done. You know, I needed to dedicate too much of my time on this.
Okay.
How do you balance the interest of the individuals with the interest of the collective?
Okay, I'm going to come back onto this a minute. I'm just going to, there's a thing called range of tolerance, Tatiana, but can I just, before I go on to that, explain the difference between consent and consensus? Okay, and maybe people already understand this, because sometimes when I'm talking, people say, oh yes, consensus, and we're saying, no, actually it's slightly different. Because the principle of consent has some subtle but important differences from the use of consensus unanimity. So consensus seeks agreement by all. Consent seeks permission to take action where there is no reasoned objection. Okay, so making decisions based on consent allows for informed risk-taking and information-based reasoning, adaptability, and ownership and accountability at every level, whereas consensus is very much more, everybody has to agree. And so it can end up having some people lose out, you know, because they just give up, you know. Anyway, I want to talk about this, something here. This is what I want to talk to. It would, to answer your question. So there you see personal preference, right? So my personal preference is my personal preference, but actually I have a range of tolerance around that. So it may not be perfect for me, but I actually can tolerate a wider range of agreement. as long as it meets the aim. And that's where you can consent, you see. But if it goes beyond that range of tolerance, then it becomes an objection. But I just want to go back a minute. So just to the process, right? So first of all, the idea is to generate a proposal, and can be one or more people have prepared one in advance. And as I say, ideally they should have, you know, done a good bit of thinking about this, talking to people, maybe done a survey, whatever. And then they come to the meeting and they present the proposal. And at that point, there's a clarifying round. The first thing is, one of the things in sociocracy and decision-making is working in rounds. So that means asking everybody in the circle what they think. So you actually ask people in turn, and it does, you know, what they think. So first of all, it would be to clarify. So you ask everybody in the circle if they have any clarifying questions. No opinions at this stage, right? Only clarifying questions. And then there's a quick reaction round and quick feedback, and if appropriate, tune the proposal. So then, as you were saying earlier, Gail, that might be where there might be a suggestion to tune the proposal. Okay. And then finally, the next round is a consent round. So if there are objections, these need to be recorded. Could be on a flip chart or whatever way, if it depends whether you're working in person or on, you know, online, without discussion until the round is completed. In other words, everybody is asked very specifically, do you consent to this or do you have an objection? And if necessary, and then it could be amending the proposal and repeat the consent round. Okay, so, and as I said at the bottom, there should have been plenty of discussion of upcoming proposal to avoid surprises at meetings, because when people are surprised, they react. And that's not good, okay? So as a process, that is the process that would be generally, we would generally follow. And Gail, it does sort of include what you were saying about, you know, you can make suggestions, but if they're completely new suggestions, that's different. But if it's just amending a proposal slightly, then clearly that can be fine. So any questions on that? No? Okay.
Yes, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
I wish to know if these are the conditions to bring up the cycle, or their proposals. Because
sorry,
because,
what? Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, because maximum Joanna is presenting, and I think talking about the cycles, it shows that it's an interconnection between different countries or continent. So I wish to know if this is the proposals or the decisions that will be taken so that the members of the circle will follow. That's what I want to know.
I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying. I mean, because this is the idea for bringing proposals in any organization that's trying to introduce sociocracy. So that should be applicable across, like, community development organizations, you know, community businesses, cooperatives. It should be adaptable to any organization. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. So we talked about that. So if a person has an objection, they have to have reasons for it. So when a person explains why they have an objection, then the whole group can take ownership of them and explore how we can deal with those. So is there another amendment that we can make that would overcome the very real concerns that someone was raising? And in a consent process, you're looking at how can we make this work? Is there some minimal thing we can try to see if we can move on? So I'm not sure if oh yeah, so, and then, so that's basically what you're doing is a proposal that comes to a meeting. The understanding is it's not necessarily that's it or else, it has to be agreed, consented to by everybody, and it won't be agreed unless everybody does consent to it. But consent can mean that it may not be your personal preference, but you can live with it, which is not the same as compromise, by the way. So just to say something about feedback, that and it's always very important for a group to do its work effectively, to have some feedback. So at the end of every meeting, it's important to evaluate in the meeting and ask, how well did this group today in its process? So then you would find out if somebody felt that their objections or their concerns had been heard or not. Okay, so, but just to say this about the benefits of consent decision making, and again, you can ask questions at the end of this, is it shortens the time frame, and because to get consensus might go on forever, right? It could take years to get consensus, but in consent, it shortens the time frame and emphasizes evaluation. So you can say, yes.
Sorry, there is a question from Ivo.
It's just a simple thing. I was just wondering if your Zoom account supports transcription, and if so, if you can turn that on.
Okay, okay, help me out. Help me out. How do I find out if that is the case?
I think if you're an admin, there should
Yes.
be one of the options that you click in on the bottom of the dots, and it'll give you an option to turn on transcription. And if you do that, it means that those who don't speak English or, for example, French will be able to see the text in French or whatever it said.
Oh, very good. Yes, I'm not
Okay,
sure.
let me double check. Sorry, notes.
I don't see it here myself. But
Okay,
I'm not the actual administrator, so
2 seconds. 2 seconds. If give me 2 minutes to find out. It doesn't seem. I can't read any of those. You wanted to carry on, Joanna, while I continue to my research, if you don't mind?
yes.
I'll see if I can find the link and I'll post it in the
You
chat.
That'd be
mind?
great.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks.
And also just to say that we're going to share the slides at the end, so it might be helpful as well. Okay. So let me see, what else have I missed it? Oh no, that's right, I'm on this slide. So yes, so a useful benefit is that it shortens the time frame, as I was saying, and emphasizes evaluation. So you can say, for example, if there's quite a lot of discussion and there's quite a lot of concerns about a proposal and you've tried to address them as well as possible, what you can then say is, let's do this for a short amount of time and let's evaluate how it's working. So whatever it is, you could say, we'll review this in 3 months' time or whatever, and see how it's working. And then if it's not working, what you can do is you can just, stop doing that and return and say, well, that didn't work because this is what happened, and come back to it, So, because a common objection might be the unintended consequences of a decision. So somebody might say, I think this or that will happen as a result of doing this, which may or may not happen. You don't know that, whether people might think it will. So if you have a shortened time frame, say you have like 3 months, you can say, well, let's find out. And then you can create a helping circle, which I mentioned earlier, which has a very specific task of monitoring the policy and finding out is it having that unintended consequence, or is it okay? And it may be the worry that that something was going to happen, didn't happen, or it did happen, you know, so you could find out, and then it means you come back and you revisit it. So the important point is that rather going for perfection with consensus, consent allows a group to go with, and we often say this a lot, it's good enough for now and it's safe enough to try. So that is a mantra, which is why I put it in bold. It's a mantra that we use all the time. We've had a lot of discussion. There are some concerns, but given that range of tolerance that people have, you can say, okay, I'm okay. Actually, I think it's good enough for now and safe enough to try. And then they consent. Everybody consents. And within that, there's the possibility of getting feedback. So it's not a decision forever. I think that's really important in sociocracy. That is something that can be revisited. Okay. So any questions on that? Okay. By the way, I can't open the chat at the minute, but when I've gone through these, I will open the chat and there might be more questions there. Okay, so I want to talk next about the selection of roles, because in my experience of organizations, usually you have a chairperson and a secretary, and the chairperson facilitates the meeting. But in sociocracy, we separate out these roles. And I think it's very interesting that to do this, because it challenges some of the kind of more traditional ways of people taking on roles. Because often people take on roles because they're seen as the most important person to be the leader, or they may have the most experience, or they volunteer. But this is a much more very conscious method of selecting roles. And so the purpose of the responsibilities of the roles, facilitator is their role is to make sure the circle meetings run on time. And then planning the agenda with input from the leader, and inviting members to the meeting, and then holding the circle meetings. That's the role of a facilitator. The secretary makes sure that the circle's documents are in order. They take notes during circle meetings and make sure that the minutes and other related documents are accurate and up to date. Then the role of the leader is to make sure the circle runs and is operating. And the leader checks in with people and tasks, and notices when items are falling through the cracks, and either deal with them or bring them to the circle. There's another role that I haven't mentioned so much. I haven't actually put there, but it's a delegate role. A delegate role is a person who might report from one small circle to a bigger parent circle. In my organization, well, there's so few of us that we don't have delegates because there's too few of us. So what are the qualities and qualifications you need? So for the leader, they can have experience, but also if they're willing to learn. And I think it's very important, that bit, the willingness to learn. They're good at tracking tasks. They're good at follow-up, have good communication skills, and are trusted by the group. The facilitator needs to have either experience or willingness to learn, gentle but focused, and multi-partial, is not trying to dominate with their own opinion. So they hold their own opinion lightly. And the secretary has to be good at multitasking, typing, and ideally have IT skills. So are there any questions on that anybody would like to ask?
Hi, Joanna. That
Yes.
list of qualities is really quite neat. Is it somewhere in this presentation? No.
It's very neat. Sorry, Priscilla, would you like to say a bit more about it?
I mean, it's very clear.
Okay.
It's just a really good list of qualities for those roles.
Okay.
But I suspect it's not in this presentation. I don't think I will remember it.
Well, you will have the recording and the slides afterwards.
Thank you.
Joanna,
So-
before we go on, can I just give you an update about the translation things? Thank you,
Yes,
Ifo, for
please.
sending me the link. I couldn't get into it. I'm very, very sorry. I will try again, but it's just that my account and this new program doesn't really manage the translation bit. Secondly, there is a conversation going on in the chat about creating circles to learn sociocracy. Maybe you can say something about sociocracy for all at the end, Joanna. So
yes,
that people
that's
can...
what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go through this bit and then go to the chat. Okay. See what I've missed, because I can't actually see it while I'm doing this presentation. Sorry about that. It's just the dynamics of doing.
I can volunteer to be your chat moderator, and if anything comes up, I will bring it to you.
Oh, Ivo, thank you so much. That is so helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so in the selection process, so first of all, if you were in an organization, and my organization is currently, we're going to be doing this at our next meeting, because the current roles, you see, one of the things that you do is you agree for how long these people hold these roles. So it could be 12 months, or it could be 6 months, or whatever you want. So at the beginning of our meeting, we will be reviewing the roles and gathering qualifications for each role. And it may include those ones I just spoke about, but there may be others that you may want to bring about it. And then again, in rounds, going around the group, compile a list of qualifications and qualities for each of the roles that a person filling that role should have, as in that last slide. And then consent to the list of qualification. And when you're consenting to the list of qualification, again, that means asking each person in the group, do they consent? Do they have an objection? Okay. And then the next stage in the process is that everybody nominates silently. And you can nominate yourself. So that's important, I think. So then you share nominations and reasons, again, in a round. But you can change your mind. So for example, if I was nominated to be the leader, for example, I would say, actually, I don't want to be the leader. I've done it for 2 years and I would like somebody else to do it. Something like that, right? So then you have a second round where people can change their mind. Don't have to change their mind, but they can change their mind. And then, and it's not necessary that everyone nominates the same people by the end. And then you'll see what happens, and you make a proposal and you go to consent. On the facilitator can either make a proposal themselves or ask someone else to make one. Now I'll just show you, I created a little table. So I made up these names. So for example, what would happen is that in the first nomination round, Alison might nominate Chris for facilitator, or she might nominate herself. So you put your nominations in that first list once you've decided, and then the reasons, and then you have you go around and Alison can say, well, actually, yes, I'd love to be the facilitator. So she would nominate herself. She might nominate herself. And so in the second round, so you have one round, which is a nomination round. You have everybody says why they've nominated that person. And then you can have a change, you can change your nomination. So you do that for each of the roles. And then by the change round, with a bit of luck, and after discussion, you might find that there's a real preference for one person, so it might, so it might be, 5 people nominate Alison as the facilitator, and so forth. So once you have done the change round, then the facilitator might say, or somebody else might say, I propose so-and-so for the facilitator, propose so-and-so for the secretary, and for each one you have a consent round. And then you agree that term of office, if you like, for that role will be reviewed in 6 months, and you'll have elections, and you can review it more frequently if you want. And then you can have another selection in 12 months. So that's how that works in practice. And as I say, my organization is going to be doing this in a couple of weeks. And I've been involved in other committees where they've done this, other groups. Are there any questions on that for clarification? So clear?
Quick question. Why do you say IT skills is needed for the secretary?
Oh, IT skills, because actually, in the way we work anyway, we work with an online agenda. And if I can
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Because actually, yes. I could actually show you in a minute. When I finish this presentation, I can show you. And basically, in Sociocracy for All, which is an organization that I've done training with, they created a template. And basically, it's fantastic because you have a whole record of all the meetings, the previous minutes following on in the same it's not a document, in the same drive. It is extremely efficient and very transparent, so it's great. But the secretary would be filling that in all the time, and adding to it and sort of updating on the drive. So you do need IT skills for that. Okay. So in terms of continuous improvement, I think because one of the commitments, I suppose, of Sociocracy is, one of the principles is a commitment to continuous improvement. You can have performance reviews. So I've been involved in a group called Sociocracy and Co-ops that has done this. And it's really interesting that you look at, say you've been the facilitator or the leader, for example, or the secretary. The review takes place where the whole group gives you feedback and asks you personally what you feel you've done well and where there's need for improvement. And then the group in a round individually say what you have done well and what they think could be improved. And it's enormously affirming. It's wonderful because people are kind, and on the whole, so that's really, really good, I think. And it feels very healthy. And then meeting evaluations, which we would do at the end of this. And again, meeting evaluations tend to be very simple in, again, what worked well and what we might do differently. And you can, at the end of a meeting, you can give feedback on the process. Or it could be interpersonal feedback, and it could be on content. So like evaluations are really good after every meeting. And then the requirement to set review dates for policies. Again, policies need to be revisited because circumstances might change, you just don't know. And the intention is for these agreements to be lived and maintained well. So it does take a lot of commitment, but nevertheless, it's really very valuable. And intentional, if you create intentional spaces for feedback, It encourages a commitment to growth and learning through feedback, both at an organizational level, team level, and individual level. And in my experience so far, I'm working in a group, in a co-housing cooperative, you know, committed to this way of working. So far, what I have found that it is creating, first of all, a high level of trust between people, because most things are transparent and it's egalitarian and there's respect and, you know, so on and so forth. And trust and a kind of a real bond. There seems a strengthening of a community of people working towards the aims of the organization. And when it's very difficult to get what you want, to, you know, in our case, we're trying to create a co-housing development in Belfast, and we've been in existence for, well, quite a long time. Started originally in 2015, but we still haven't even got a site. So you can imagine that people would fall away during that time because of the frustration of not actually getting a site. Plus, we've no money, we've no capital, so it's quite difficult. And we're committed to a mutual home ownership society, which would guarantee like permanent affordability. These are very hard things to do, and yet our group is staying together, has a high level of energy, commitment to it, and all the rest. And I think it's because of these processes and practices that sociocracy has given us. So I would just say that, and that's from my personal experience. But this is a very general note on governing documents, because this was specifically about governance when it started. But you have to have, you have to be incorporated as a cooperative with articles of incorporation. This is all the formal kind of bureaucracy in a way. And you have to have bylaws, which sets out your basic governance structure and decision-making process. And it's really good to, I know it does sound bureaucratic, but actually when new people come to join your group or your cooperative, sometimes if they don't have experience, they may think it works like a traditional organization. So actually you need to have these things. And the third document is policies and procedures, your policy manual. And in my organization, we're working on these, we're working on a equality policy, diversity, and so on and so forth, So those things are necessary, if not the most exciting. So just to ask, this is what I would do as, now we haven't finished the meeting, so I could maybe come back to it before, but so far in terms of the meeting, what worked well, this particular workshop, and what to do differently. We can come back to it because we haven't looked at the chat yet, but that's what I was going to ask you. And just the other, whoops. Okay. Sorry. I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and come back to that, if that's okay, and look at the chat. And see if I can answer some questions in the chat. Are any was it Ifo? You said you would moderate the chat. Was anything that stands out to you? People are introducing themselves, which is fantastic. Okay, so somebody has, Gail, you have put up Sociocracy for All. Thank you so much. Because that is Sociocracy for All, that website there has just a vast array of resources. It has videos, it has just amazing stuff. And and in terms of training, that's the training I have done with Sociocracy for All. They have an academy, so it's a year-long training. And I found it so helpful. And it's kind of international. So there were certainly, you know, if it was in terms of timeframes, any of you who are in Cameroon could most certainly do that. And I'm quite sure that they do have transcription, and they do, you know, operate in different languages and so on. Is there anything else that anybody has any questions?
No, just thank you, Joanna. The content is really rich, and there's loads to learn from there. So I will look back over the slides and you know, go back over them. Thought it was a lot of great content. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And like, I know, Gail, in that in Common Ground, that there is a big interest now in developing an intentional community using sociocracy. So if there's anything I can help with in that, you know, by all means, get in touch.
Oh, thanks very much for that. Yeah, I'll pass your details on to Robbie. Robbie Breeden is the person down there. Yeah.
Joanna,
So,
can I ask you if you have the time or an example of those kind of notes, the template that you were referring to?
yes, I definitely. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can find one a minute. Okay.
It can be a very different way to.
Yes.
give
Okay.
Notes.
Now, let me just, so here, for example, okay, I'm going to share my screen. And where is it here? Okay, so this is there's as part of the Sociocracy for All, there's a co-op circling meeting minutes for this year. So at the top it gives the vision and mission, which you can click on, and then there's a different group, right? And it tells you of this group. The aim of this group is to spread, support, and further the use of sociocracy and cooperatives as a tool to advance social and economic justice in our societies. Okay, and so then the domain, and it gives you here's Patrick back again. It gives you what the responsibilities are of the co-op sector circle. Okay, so all that. And then what does OKR stand for, Tiziana? Key results, isn't it something like that?
Organizational key results.
Yeah, so that's all that, right? But then what it does down here, so there's a review date, and this one is open-ended, right? And then it tells you who the leader is and when their term ends, who the facilitator is, me, and I have to do it. Oh, look, I should be finished already. I think that's anyway, and who the roles are and when their term ends. But then you go through this thing here. Well, so you have operational roles and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so then you have the minutes, you see, and you have all this, and then a backlog of things that need to be done. So at the beginning of a meeting, so we have a meeting coming up next Tuesday, and at the beginning there will be an opening round, that's the time of it, right? An opening round where people check in, and then attendance will be there, guests, additional people, and so on. The minutes, so the minutes there are should be, they're not there, but they will be by the time that meeting comes round. From the previous minutes, there will be a link out there to the previous minutes. Okay, and then if anybody has any announcements, and then the next meeting, and that's called admin. So you have attendance, duration of the meeting, minutes, so duration, minutes, information, and the date of next meeting. So admin is the ADMIN, and you do go through that at the beginning. And it's great to have the meeting already decided at the beginning. So do you know, I mean, sure, everybody hates at the end of meetings saying, when are we going to meet next? Because it takes forever. And then consent to the agenda. So you have all the stuff that's on the agenda. and then reports, and then sub-circles. Now let me see if I can have one of my own here. That's co-housing. No. Oh yeah, those are all those ones. So yeah, it's that's a kind of template. There is actually a template that's on the Sociocracy for All. Have a template that you can adapt. It took us a while to get the hang of it, but once we did, you do need. That's why you need somebody who has IT skills, because they quickly pick it up. You know, if you're used to just written minutes of meetings kept in a file, it's a very different way of doing it. And it's all kept on Google Drive. So you can just go in. We have a filing system on our Google Drive of different circles and their meetings and their minutes. So when you have the general meeting, the minutes from each other circle can be put as a link. So everybody can very easily see what was decided. You know, if you're having a general meeting and said, well, actually, we had a lobbying meeting, which we've been doing quite a bit of lobbying. You can just go down in that agenda, and there'll be a link to the minutes of the last lobbying meeting, saying whatever everything was done and everything. So it's really very efficient. I really love it now. It took me a while to get the hang of it, but it's great. Okay.
Joanna, may I ask, is your co-housing co-op involved with the tiny housing that I've heard about along the Lagan?
No, it's not. It's not, Priscilla. It's not. I know of them, but we have no link with them. I think, as far as I know, those are like individual people, you know, buying their own tiny house. You know, it's like there's a co-housing project in Portaferry, which is a, you know, like the houses will be individually owned, so people have to raise their own mortgage, and then they can sell them on the open market. In Belfast, what we're trying to do is to create a development that is permanently affordable, so that so we're registered as a mutual home ownership society, which would mean we'd have one mortgage, and then everybody shares in the equity of that. So if somebody wants to leave, or they die or whatever, that house or apartment or whatever it is can't go on the open market at all. It can only go back into the society. So people might be able to get some equity out of it, but it can't be, there's no profit can be made on it, basically. So it's really it's very, very it's very good, but it's quite difficult to achieve in the current climate. But that's what we're aiming to do anyway.
Would the common ground have a housing dimension, Priscilla or Gail? Would the common ground develop a housing dimension?
I'm going to let Gail answer that, but I would just like to say to Joanna, I wish you the very best, and I know you can achieve this. It's lovely.
Thank you, Priscilla. That's so kind of you.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they're not building housing or anything like that, but they are wanting to have a live-in community down there. So they're looking at options for creating space for people to live, yeah, to increase living spaces. I mean, I don't know of them, they're not going to build housing, but I don't know that for sure, to be honest. But yeah, they do want to have a living component.
And is your intention to adopt this method, sociocracy, from now on?
They already had adopted it, but things are changing, I guess, and developing within the community. So there are more people coming on board. So yeah, I think there's just a push at the minute for some of us to do this training and to just kind of re-enliven, I guess, the circles and maybe make some changes, I think, maybe just. So, I mean, I just got involved in May this year, so my involvement is quite new, I guess.
I'll just add that Robbie does have some documents that people can look at, like me and Gail, who are new, when they arrive. And in those documents, it says something about 4 to 15 people can live there at the minute. He has that capacity somehow.
Okay. Excellent. So how about our friends in Cameroon? Have you any anything to add that you think would be helpful to share?
Yeah, I will share our website where people can get more about our organization. Then,
Great.
yes, yeah, I will share in the discussion so that you know more about our organization and what we do.
Thank
Then
you.
I think a WhatsApp group could be created where we can exchange more, interact there so that we can see how to work together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And do click on that, follow up on that Sociocracy for All link, because there's so many resources on that. And there's like national connections there that would be good for you to link up to, or then to link up to you.
It's a good presentation. I liked it. And it inspired me very well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm impressed that you've been going for 15 years and you guys are still together.
Yeah, so am I.
Because I know of organizations that actually have houses and they've broken up after 15 years.
Yes.
And you're still going without a house. So much respect.
Thank you. And it is so true. I mean, a lot of intentional communities do collapse or break up because they fall out with each other. You know, that's what happens, you know. But what Sociocracy offers is absolutely like good, solid tools and structures to prevent that happening, you know.
Excellent. And you said you're in Belfast?
We are, my organization my group is in Belfast. Yes, Ifo. Where are you based in Canada?
I'm in Nova Scotia, Halifax.
Oh, wonderful.
Although I used to live about 20 minutes away from Belfast, PEI.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which was named by some people from Ireland who moved to Prince Edward Island and they missed home, so they called the place Belfast.
That's so funny. Yeah. Okay.
So you're planning to do a housing cooperative?
We are a housing cooperative, but we don't have a site as such yet.
So you're a housing cooperative that is homeless.
We're a housing, yes. Oh, Ipo, yes, that is exactly what we are.
Is there any support from government for those sort of initiatives?
Well, now there's a whole question about, we are theoretically part of the UK, but in actual practice, the legislation that exists in the UK we don't get the benefits of it. So there's no government support here for us at all.
What about union support?
Trade union support. Well, actually, that's very interesting. We don't have links with the trade unions. Tatiana, do you have union?
It's a hit and miss, not for housing, maybe for workers cooperative. They are more involved with the workers cooperative movement. And trade union they are changing slowly their attitude to cooperatives. You know, there is some kind of inherently contradiction there, and we are solving that.
Because the trade union members also need to live somewhere.
That's a very good point, Ifo. Yeah, and housing is becoming a very big issue in Ireland too.
Okay,
you know,
I am connected with some active trade union people in the UK, so I'll be happy to connect you.
Thank you. And I think that's a very good idea actually for us. We haven't actually I mean, we do have trade union individually. Some of us have trade union links and are members of trade unions. But I don't think we have actually worked with trade unions. And one of the co-housing projects in England, in Suffolk, is a new one. And they have just created some kind of part of their co-housing for health workers in the National Health Service. And I'm quite sure the unions must be supporting that. So that's really, thank you. That's something I can take away from this. I might.
Another group that could be helpful is called Mondragon,
Yes.
because they do have a subdivision of them that is involved in helping to facilitate and provide support for
You do, that's right.
for cooperatives.
Yeah.
We are planning to reach out to them as well here in Canada to see what
Okay.
we can do.
Oh, very good. I'm one of the groups I'm involved in is it's called Sociocracy and Co-ops, but it's mostly North America based. And a lot of the people, and they're mostly involved in worker co-ops. And some of those people, some of the representatives on that group are very strong trade union, have union backgrounds. That's there. So I think it's stronger that, in the US and maybe in Canada as well, the link between worker cooperatives and unions.
No, it's not strong in Canada.
Is it not?
And the
Oh,
US.
right, okay.
No,
right.
it's just some of us are troublemakers, and so you get to meet other troublemakers, and you find out that they're also union people. But
we like troublemakers here.
But the corporate and governments here have done a really, really good job of convincing the masses that they're exploiting, that unions are the problem.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of
and
course.
so the union membership has declined rapidly in Canada and the US.
Okay.
So it's like we live in a place where the minimum wage, you cannot afford to pay rent on minimum wage.
No, yeah, the housing situation here in Ireland and the UK is very bad as well. It's
If we are connected with the UK Federation of Workers Co-op, workers.coop is a new federation. Maybe you already know them. And another one for housing is Radical Roots. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not familiar with Radical Roots, but we're just joining.
Would be something that you could explore because they've been really disruptors of the housing market.
Nice.
Yeah.
And because you said you have no funding, please make sure you reach out to me. I know a guy who's a troublemaker with a lot of money. He's from the US, but he now lives in Europe.
Okay.
And anything around housing or cooperatives or anything that's loving and caring, he tries to provide support for.
Oh, fantastic! Have you put your email in the your email address in the chat?
Yes, I did, but I'll put it again.
Yeah, I can't put it in chat.
I'm also wondering if you folks have any suggestions for something other than WhatsApp for communicating. I say this because I'm from West Africa, and every relative and people that you almost knew and did not know tries to put you in a group, so your WhatsApp becomes like 3 million messages. So I'm trying to find something else, because when messages go through WhatsApp, I sometimes might not see it for days.
Yeah. No, that is so true. I think one of the we tend to use WhatsApp as well,
What I can do, Ifo, is actually to circulate the chat with anything else that we are circulating today, so everybody can have each other, because I see a lot of exchanges in the chat. And, for us, emails are the best way. But really, if we wanted to carry on this kind of conversation, let us try something like get to know each other, get to see where we are with our projects, and then build it from there. So I will circulate certainly the emails. If everybody has any objection, it's the time to say.
I'm also going to send out an invitation to everyone every Sunday at 4 p.m. UK time. We have a global, it's called the Sunday International Solidarity
Okay.
Zoom. It's sponsored by Global UK, no, Global African Congress UK, and another
Okay.
group out of Brazil. And it's an anti-racism space and an inclusive space where we try to deal with issues that are affecting people globally. Most of the people are African, but you don't have to be African to be there as long as you're in solidarity. We're in solidarity with you. And so you can come into the space, meet people, and we always have country reports. So I usually give a report from what's happening in Canada. People give reports from the UK, from Brazil, from Congo, from everywhere. You guys could give a report on what's happening in Belfast. And then after the country reports, there's usually questions for each. If there's a question, people ask questions, and then we go into a presentation. So every Sunday we have a 30-minute or so presentation by someone on a topic that might be of interest. I think what you presented today might be of interest to the group, so you can come and attend maybe one or two of them, and then I would, if you're open to it, I would suggest that maybe you present to us and share this idea.
Oh, I'd love to
the
do
group.
that. I'd be very happy to, yeah.
Now, that is the official part, and that usually ends within an hour or two.
Okay.
Now we have the unofficial, then the recording stops, and then it becomes a marathon.
Okay.
So sometimes we're there for 8 hours,
Oh my
sometimes we're there
God.
for 12 hours. Some people, I have multiple meals while the stuff is going on. Sometimes I go visit relatives with the Zoom in my ear. And so like it's a really, really nice welcoming space. I take it as my personal therapy every Sunday. I get to spend 10 to 12 hours with lovely people who deeply care about the world.
Okay,
So if you
that
can
sounds
make
fantastic.
it, yes, be there and
And you're going to share
welcome.
that link with us, yeah?
I will share the link. Let me, yeah, I'll find the link and I'll share it. And maybe
Okay.
Diana can say hello.
Yes, Diana, would you like to talk to us? You're on mute at the minute, so. Can you unmute?
You muted yourself again. Oh, did you say 1 minute?
Oh,
There you are.
there you go. Hi. Sorry, I'm in another meeting at the same time.
Okay.
I can hear both at the same time.
No
but yeah,
worries. I'm in 2 meetings as well.
yeah.
We're
That's
both
like-
actually working, so I hope it's recorded. Okay, well, yeah, hopefully our bosses don't see
Take
this.
them out of my ears for a second. But yeah, hi, I'm Diana. Thank you for the presentation, and I'm sorry I couldn't pay full attention to getting called into my other meeting, but it's really interesting. I was just about to post the link there in the chat to the Canadian Cooperative Federation as well, which has some good information. And I found the Radical Roots one, and I posted that one in the chat. Yeah, so thank you very much. Sorry I couldn't be more into the chat and all
Okay.
that, but
That's okay.
the time of day here, right? It's morning, we're doing the breakfast, right?
What time is it there?
It's 9:42.
9:42.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What time is it in Cameroon?
It is 2:43.
Okay. It's the
We're in
same.
the afternoon period.
Yeah. It's one for where you're just 1 hour ahead of us. That's interesting in Belfast in Ireland anyway. Okay. What I was going to ask was anybody else want to suggest any other resources that they have or would like to share with the whole group?
Okay, I will share this one as a selfless and selfish plug. If
Okay.
you're okay, first of all, qualify. I do not like Elon Musk at all, just to be clear. But
Yes.
I do have an active Twitter presence.
Yes.
And
I
if you know
see.
anybody who's trying to get into technology or looking for a job in technology, they should follow me on Twitter. and my pinned post is a guide, step-by-step guide to getting a job in tech. Most of the resources I share are free. Some of them will even pay you to take them. And we've been getting people jobs all over the world. So please, if you know people looking for work, please send them to me and I will hook them up. And if they are West Africans, tell them to tag me, but do not write to me in English or French. Only Pidgin. If they write to me in Pidgin, I will respond faster. If they write to me in English, I might ignore it. Same thing with French. I'm trying to encourage West Africans to have respect for the way our local people talk.
Oh, great. Okay. How interesting. Yeah. Okay.
But if you're not West African, you can write to me in English and I'll respond.
Yes.
And if you write to me in French, I'll get Diana to read it because she's French. She speaks French and Portuguese.
Okay.
Okay.
That's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, so I've posted the link in the group
Yeah,
to
I
the
see that.
Zoom. It's the same link it's the same link and it's the same password every
Okay.
every week. And I've also posted a link to the Global African Congress UK.
Tatiana, you will have this chat saved, won't you? On your
Yeah, I'm going to share the chat, and I keep saving it so that I'm not losing anything.
Very good.
The other thing I wanted to ask you guys, just as a matter of interest, usually we don't have such an international audience. We are a very small kind of organization, and but online allowed us. How did you find the details of this seminar?
Okay, I'll go first because I have to run into work meeting.
Yeah.
Diana and I were registering for the conference for the Canadian Worker Co-op Federation.
Yeah.
And then while we're doing that, we noticed on their website that they had an Eventbrite link for a webinar that they're doing at the end of November. So as soon as I finished registering both of us for that, there was a pop-up or link for you guys'
Okay.
event telling us that, hey, if you're interested in worker cooperatives, you might be interested in this.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, that looks interesting. So then I messaged Diana and she looked at it and she said, oh, that looks interesting too. So we both signed up for it.
Great.
That is our story from Canada. Now I'm curious about Cameroon.
Thank you. You added a dimension that we usually don't have, and we thank you for that. Joanna, you wanted to say the last few words, and we.
Well, I just wondered, how did the Cameroon folk find out about it as well? Was it the same way? Would one of you like to tell?
Yeah, I'm very impressed about the meeting today, and as such, I'm very happy, and I gain more experience from that. Thank to my brother from Africa. I give you chapeau. So thank you very much, bro. You don't do fine. So all things they fine. Thank you very much. Well, as for Madam Jonna, Tizania, Diana, Priscilla, thank you for the meeting, and it was very good and warmly to exchange with you, Paul, and we are very happy that together we can see how to continue the interaction when there's a possibility. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
I would think.
Onagwa, I sent you an email. I'm also slightly dyslexic. I don't know if you got it.
Back in 2017.
I will check.
Okay. If not, I've saved the chat too, so I'll find you.
Okay.
And you people in Belfast, get a house already.
We'll let you know if we do. You can come visit.
I'm also very creative at figuring out things, so if you need to figure out some stuff, message me. And, I'll see what I can drum up.
And definitely, once we have a co-housing thing, we will have a clean house which will have spare bedrooms for visitors. So you'll be definitely willing to come. We'll be very happy.
Do you have land yet or no?
Yeah, we have ideas, but we don't have the places yet.
Like, I've joined a few of these meetings and we're talking about the same things that we talked about Sunday.
Oh, look, and somebody's got their other meeting on as well. So look.
Yeah, that's me. I'll mute.
It's okay. Okay, if anybody has anything else to say, that not just like to thank everybody so warmly for your participation. It's been such a pleasure to meet you, and a surprise to have to be meeting people in Canada and Cameroon and thinking about Africa. It's just fantastic. And thank you to Common Ground as well. Priscilla, lovely to meet you as well. I might meet you in person. Okay, and thank you. And
Quickly,
thank you, Tatiana, for organizing this. It's been.
yes, thank you. Are we going to email the link to the replay and the slides?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me the time to download it to YouTube, and then send you the link there. In an hour or two, you will have it. Okay.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
again, guys. Thank you for today. Really enjoy it. Bye bye.
I didn't figure out where
Thanks,
Priscilla
everyone.
is. Are you also in
Great.
Belfast?
Nice meeting you.
Yes, before I'm in Belfast, but the community that I'm growing in is in another part of Northern Ireland. It's in the west of Northern Ireland. We'll talk again. Finish your meeting.
It just started. It's been going since Sunday.
Oh, bless you. Look, let's keep in touch. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
For sure. Bye now.